All right, welcome to Friday Night Torah Study. Well, Shabbat Shalom first off, and welcome to our Friday Night Torah Study. This is our Torah Study service. It is a service, so if you're online, we have our Shamish team online moderating the room. You can start typing in your prayers and your praises as we get started, and I'll explain a little bit about how the order of service goes. So we start off our service with prayer and praises. We ask that you would limit those prayer and praises to the most urgent prayers and the most praiseworthy praises, and keep the backstory down to nothing unless it's necessary. So if it's not necessary, keep the backstory down. And if you're in the chat, if you're in our chat, it's a very interactive service. If you're in our chat, just make it as brief as possible. The Shamish team have to read and record and however they do their thing over there. And so if it's a long message drawn out, it takes up time to get all the other ones in, okay? So that goes for on live stream as well as here locally. Keep it to the most urgent prayers and the most praiseworthy praises, and minimize the backstory, even in the chat, all right? We want to make sure we cover that. So after we do that, we'll open in prayer. Mr. Oliver Hersey is going to open us in prayer today. After that, Rebbitzin and her team, Selena, and they are going to wow us with their Torah study. Tonight's Torah study is Terumah. Did I say it right? Terumah? Yeah. Which means to do. And that's Shemot 25, 1, 27 through 19. And Rebbitzin and her team have an amazing Torah study to take us through. Very informative and information. Yeah, the same word. And very informative. So I'm really excited. This is her second time doing it, third time doing it. And she has some new stuff. So I'm really excited to see what she has for us tonight. After they go through the Torah portion, Rabbi will come out as normal, and he'll go through a Q&A and a midrash. So make sure you take any questions down and be prepared for that. What you should be looking to get, even when Robertson and her team does it, is what you can get out of it to apply to your life now. And I'm sure you can find it if you just watch the screen. It's awesome. You'll love it. All right, so with that being said, we can start lining up for prayers and praises. No podium. Okay. So you have to stand on the tape, and they'll get you.
Just like a movie star.
Just like a movie star. Shabbat shalom, Ms. Amy.
Shabbat shalom.
Oh, I didn't hit a chord. Let me move.
I am praying for wisdom and discernment and shopping for a camper to live in.
Wow.
The rent's going to be really cheap where I'm going to be parking it.
Awesome.
And maybe I'll be able to get some things done that I need.
Awesome.
Medical-wise, and just get a leg up.
Oh, look at that. That's an adventure.
Thanks.
We can definitely pray for that. Awesome. Yeah.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. You're not praying yet, are you? Oh.
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
I actually have a praise.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
I have a job.
Hey!
As a hospitality aide, and eventually in April, I will be trained to become a CNA.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Back in your field. That's awesome. Praise Abba for that. That's really good. All right, live stream.
Okay, from Stephanie Henderson, prayers please for extremely painful muscles, needing to see a specialist. Carmela Lazarus, prayers for my brother-in-law who's in critical condition with a heart issue. Monique Fleming, praises Yahweh, my heart monitor came back negative for AFib. Cardiologist says my heart is perfect. Thank you for your prayers. Antoinette Hill, Shabbat Shalom, praises my friend who found out she does not have cancer. Thank you for your prayers for her. Pat Finley, prayer for lots of arthritic pain going on. Donna Morgan, I asked for prayers for a speedy healing for my ulcer or colitis. I do know that it is not a hernia. All right, so they're starting to come in now. We quite a few unspoken so far. Robert Brackett, prayer for Sarah. She is sick. Norma Silva, prayers for strength and courage. This for my nephew who is hospitalized, waiting for an amputation. C. Star Hicks, prayer for my son and his family. Unspoken prayers, please, and praises for Yahweh healing my knee and sprain and torn meniscus better 90% praises. Just some general prayers for wisdom. Kathy Collette, please pray for my sister, Trina. She's been sick for a week with a bad cold. From V Scholar 2024, please pray for my son Brian for a complete healing of lupus. From the New Zealand group, Boba Fett, prayer for unspoken prayers for people around New Zealand who need healing, please. Shelley Bell, praise Yahweh that I've been able to get into my power wheelchair very carefully. And prayers, please, for my young adult daughter's drug addiction and for those with addictions and the families. Osvaldo Rivera, trying to get a third opinion on my neck. Michael Robillard, a praise report. I was able to pay off a credit card debt today. Kay Troyer, prayers please for Kaya Rose. She isn't feeling well. And for me and my body is achy. Praise my pregnancy is going well. Ashley Williams, prayer for a friend who's undergoing drug rehab, asking Father opens his eyes. Leslie Nulf, Shabbat Shalom, praises to Abba for you all, and please pray for me. I'm scheduled for surgery on February 29th, and I'm in a lot of pain today. Walk softly, continue prayer for my nerve pain will heal. Still waiting to see if an MRI is going to happen. Keith and Tina Wolf, please pray for my nieces and nephew as they lost their mom today to cancer. Carolyn Deborah Stephen, Shabbat Shalom. Please pray for my husband Milton, suffering from arthritis pain, and to me, patient, so I can able to look after him as his main caregiver. Morgan Gervais, career coach. No need to read aloud. Oh, sorry. She had a specific prayer for somebody that's ill. Some general prayers for families. Eva Daly with Yah prayer, my left hip to heal. John Getler, please pray for my daughter Jacqueline Nicole, cancer treatment in Mexico right now. RF, Shabbat Shalom. Please pray for my daughter who's seeing multiple specialists in the next 2 weeks and they find and diagnose her illness. Rachel Stone, Shabbat Shalom. Pray for my mother. She's been taken to the hospital. And that is it. That's got us caught up on all the urgency right now.
Amen, amen. We also want to keep in prayer all of those that have reached out this week for counseling, for prayers, and the praises that we got. It was a good week, and I'm glad that it's now Shabbat. Amen? Amen. All right. Ollie's going to come up, and he's going to open us up in prayer.
Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, thank you for this wonderful time, for Shabbat, to restore our minds back to you and to get rid of all the distractions that the world bring in the rest of the week. I pray for the prayers that you would have your way in everyone's lives, and tonight you would open our eyes and our ears to whatever it is that you have to teach us this week, this Shabbat. B'Shem Yeshua Mashiachenu. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Made a switch on you. All right. So as we're going to do something a little bit different here this week, and actually for a good chunk of the next couple of weeks. All right. So first of all, I'm very excited. You guys should be very excited. This is going to be a really, really good series of Torah studies, Torah portion studies, right? Now, I want to preemptively smack all of you women, especially you men, who are going to have a problem with the fact that the person coming up to teach you or share with you is my wife, okay? Now, and by the way, I'm not bringing her up here because she's my wife. I'm bringing her up because she's got a tremendous presentation to go through these somewhat, some of you may find it really exciting and interesting, especially if you're construction people or builders or this or that who like to deal with sacrifices, I guess, or whatever. But, some of us can walk through these Torah portions and be like, and just, it could be really, really tough, especially when we have to deal with building the tabernacle, and then, of course, we're being given the instructions in it eventually, and then we'd actually end up building it. So we have 7 of the next 8 Torah portions deal with those kind of things, okay? As we finish the book of Exodus, go into the book of Leviticus. And so, now, I know that you got a little bent out of shape about this idea of a woman teaching. She's not going to be teaching, like, halacha, okay, for you as far as, like, what you need to do to walk in your life. She's not going to be instructing men, like it's whatever you think Scripture says about all this. She's going to be sharing from the readings. We're going to go read through the Torah portion. And as she's reading through the Torah portion, actually with her assistant, Selena's going to go read through the Torah portion and then and give you visuals so you can see what it is or what it would look like that they were talking about, all right? So I'm very excited. You guys should be very excited. Let's go ahead and bring up Rebitz and Julie. And to assist her in this, Selena. All right, there we go.
That was good. Okay. All right, thank you. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. All right, I want to welcome everyone to our Friday night Erev Shabbat Torah study dealing with the Torah portion Terumah. This is a presentation that is because MTOI exists. Children love visuals. So I was very blessed in having a woman out in California who will actually be moving here in a few weeks, Vera Linton and her family, yes. She has been drawing the visuals for Parsha Pearls for a number of years now. And my husband and I had talked 3 years ago. This is actually my 3rd time doing the Torah study cycle of the next few Torah portions. And Vera has been adding visuals as my understanding deepens in the Torah portions. And I can tell you, when I was first writing the lessons for Terumah and Tetzaveh and Vakayel and Pekudai and Vayikra and Tzav and all that, I was very intimidated because I'm like, these are things that we don't deal with. We don't see these things. We don't really have great visuals out there. And so I prayed a lot about how to have this come to fruition and do the best of our ability to have the visuals for the children. But at the same time, my husband and I talked, and he said, I think these visuals would be great for the adults as well. So I hope you will be blessed tonight by the visuals and that these things will stick with you. As I said last Shabbat, that a picture paints 1,000 words, and I hope that it will do that for you. So speaking of the MTOI program, we do have lessons online that we publish every Sunday. So this past Sunday, we published Terumah, and these are the Parsha points from the lesson. There are visuals in here, actually, which are wonderful for the adults to follow along with the verses and see the actual parts that we are going to be studying tonight. And as part of our Terumah lesson for 19.1, we also have worksheets, and these worksheets are a wonderful way for you to engage with the lesson and, count things and keep it to memory, because, if Yahweh put it in there, there's a reason for it, and we should be learning it. So I want to have Betty come up here. Betty, she works. We have been updating all our crafts and notebook pages to make them a whole lot more pretty. And so I'm really proud of the work that we do. She is amazing to help me. Every Tuesday we meet to revamp the crafts. This year we added a new craft to the Katan B. So for 19.1, I'm going to show you the Katan A craft is an incense sachet. So it's right there. She's going to hold it up. So, because in the Torah portion, okay, not her face. Okay, the incense sachet. All right, so the incense sachet is to hold incense in there, and we are going to be talking about the incense that was put on the altar of incense. And then for Katan B, they had a notebook page. I really like this notebook page right here. So on there you can see the 4 furnishings that were in the set-apart place and the most set-apart place, and then the Hebrew words that the children will be learning to go along with those furnishings. Yeah, I really like that. That turned out really pretty. Okay, and then as a bonus this year, we actually have 3D crafts for the Katan B children. So Betty, go ahead and hold up the Ark of the Witness. Yep. So the lid actually comes out, the lid of atonement. So, and then inside of it, we added some things that are not in this Torah portion, but that would be put in the Ark of the Witness. So you would, of course, have the 10 Commandments. Okay, you would have the pot of manna. Okay. Okay, the pot of manna is found in Exodus 16:13. All right, and then Aharon's rod that budded, that was also put in there as a witness, and that is going to be from Numbers 17:23. So those were all in the gold Ark of the Witness. All right, the next thing that we also have is the lampstand, the 7-branch lampstand, so that's 3D. We have next the table of showbread with its gold rings and gold poles, and then the 12 breads on there. Yep. And then last, we have the altar of incense with its gold poles, and then we have the incense on top. Yes. So it's just a fun craft to make. We had a ton of fun making that. So that's for 19.1. We're also going to be covering the different coverings. So for the Katan A craft, they actually get to have fun making the covering that has the blue, scarlet, and purple colors. And then for Katan B, their notebook page shows the 4 coverings that were on the dwelling place. Okay, so you have the first covering, which is the 3 colors, the Tehelet, the Argamon, and the Shani. And then we have the goat's hair, we have the ram skin dyed red, and then we have the leather, the last covering. So the kids get to make a sample of each of those 4 coverings. Okay, so that's the crafts that the children get to have fun making up in the classroom on Shabbat. So I thought I would just share that with you so you can see what we do here at MTOI. Okay, so I'm ready to get started. Oh, I wanted to also say, if you're here locally, I do have some extra lessons that we put on the table up front if anybody wants to grab them. First come, first serve. We just printed extra, so help yourself. All right, so Parsha, Terumah. And Terumah in English means a contribution. Okay, so this Torah portion is really great because it actually focuses on what the people brought to make the tabernacle. And so I'm going to go ahead and have my reader start. This is Selena Stevenson, who's married to, I guess, the hot man on the mic in the back. Okay, so, all right, so here we go.
Okay, Exodus 25:1. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, that they take up a contribution for me. From everyone whose heart moves him, you shall take up my contribution.
Okay, I just want to focus a little bit on those two verses. So it says, take up a contribution. So this was actually a free will offering, but it says to take up. So you're thinking, well, if it says take up and it's a free will offering, does that contradict itself? No, because Yahweh instructed, this was only from those whose heart moved them to do this. If you didn't have the heart to do it, then don't do it. Yahweh needs nothing from you, but he does want you to give. But if you do it begrudgingly, then you might as well have not done it. Okay, so everyone who contributed was because their hearts were moved to do so. And as we'll find out later on, their hearts were so moved that Moshe had to tell them to stop. Wouldn't it be nice if Rabbi got to do that too for the project? Just saying. All right, next.
Verse 3, and this is the contribution which you take up from them, gold and silver and bronze.
Okay, so we're starting off with the materials, the materials that were used in building, like the structure of the dwelling place, as well as the support for the dwelling place. We will be focusing later on the amounts that were given of each of these for the dwelling place in the future Parsha. So that's going to be in Vayechel.
Verse 4, and blue and purple and scarlet material, and fine linen and goat's hair.
Okay, so we have here the blue, the purple, and the scarlet material. These are made from dyed wool. Okay, so those are made, from an animal, and, typically from the sheep or the goats. And then also another fabric was the fine linen. That is from a plant. It's a flax plant. Okay, and then another material was goat's hair that was used for one of the coverings for the dwelling place. So right now what we're looking at is all the different parts of the materials that Yahweh is asking to be presented or offered.
Verse 5, and ram skins dyed red, and fine leather, and acacia wood.
Okay, so acacia wood, which is right here, is a wood that is very strong and it's very durable, and it was found in abundance where they lived, and it's stronger than oak, and it's water resistant. So that is really important because them being out in the elements, they did get rain, and so this was able to withstand that. And then the ram skins, they dyed that red, and we'll talk more about where that red came from later. And then the leather, this is really interesting. I'm presenting this, but of course, I looked up like Jewish thought on leather. You don't even want to know the absurdness of what they said that leather was. It was like a rare unicorn animal that only presented itself during that time. It was just like the most bizarre thing. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go with what the scripture says here. And so as of right now, we don't really know where that leather came from, but the Jews have speculated some very interesting things.
Verse 6, oil for the light, spices for the anointing oil, and for the sweet incense.
Okay, so this is the olive oil for the light, which is for the lampstand. And then you would have these spices that went into the anointing oil that we're going to learn more about later when the dwelling place is anointed, as well as when the priesthood is ordained. They will be anointed with that anointing oil from those spices. And we'll cover that also later on in Pekudai. And then also on here we have for you the sweet incense. We show that to you on the altar of incense. The sweet incense was offered up on the altar of incense, and those represent the prayers. Okay?
Verse 7, shoham stones and stones to be set in the shoulder garment and in the breastplate.
Okay, so they needed all these stones for the breastplate, which we show here. Next week, we're going to delve more into the garments of Aharon as well as his children. So these are things that had to be brought so that they can be used for the priestly garments. The shoham stones were on the ephod, and they represented the names of the 12 tribes, 6 on each shoulder.
Verse 8, and they shall make me a set-apart place, and I shall dwell in their midst. According to all that I show you, the pattern of the dwelling place and the pattern of all its furnishings, make it exactly so.
Okay, so Yahweh was very specific on how he wanted the tabernacle, the dwelling place, and the furnishings inside and outside the courtyard to be made.
Verse 10, and they shall make an ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high. And you shall overlay it with clean gold, inside and outside. You shall overlay it. And you shall make on it a molding of gold all around. And you shall cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them in its 4 corners, 2 rings on one side, and 2 rings on the other side. And you shall make poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold, and shall put the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark to lift up the ark by them. The poles are in the rings of the ark, they are not taken from it. And into the ark you shall put the witness which I give you. And you shall make a lid of atonement of clean gold, 2.5 cubits long, and 1.5 cubits wide. And you shall make 2 cherubim of gold, make them of beaten work at the 2 ends of the lid of atonement. And make 1 cherub at one end, and the other cherub at the other end. Make the cherubim from the lid of atonement at its 2 ends. And the cherubim shall be spreading out their wings above the covering. And the cherubim shall be spreading out their wings above, covering the lid of atonement with their wings, with their faces toward each other. The faces of the cherubim turn toward the lid of atonement. And you shall put the lid of atonement on top of the ark, and put into the ark the witness which I give you. And I shall meet with you there, and from the lid of atonement, from between the 2 cherubim which are on the ark of the witness, I shall speak to you all that which I command you concerning the children of Israel.
Okay, so in this Torah portion, the only thing that was put into, that is mentioned, is the tablets, because the other 2 items have not happened yet, and those stories haven't happened yet. And so this is the furnishing that would have been in the most set apart place, and we're going to learn more about that when we study the Day of Atonement and how Aharon would go in there once a year.
Verse 23, and you shall make a table of acacia wood, 2 cubits long, a cubit wide, and a cubit and a half high. And you shall overlay it with clean gold, and shall make a molding of gold all around, and shall make for it a rim of a handbreadth all around, and shall make a gold molding for the rim all around. And you shall make for it 4 rings of gold, and put the rings on the 4 corners that are at its 4 legs. The rings are close to the rim as holders for the poles to lift the table. And you shall make the poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold, and the table shall be lifted with them. And you shall make its dishes, and its ladles, and its jars, and its bowls for pouring. Make them of clean gold. And you shall put the showbread on the table before me continually.
Okay, so this is the instruction for the table of showbread, and again, it started off with acacia wood, and then it was covered in gold, and then later we're going to learn more about that showbread. But again, this represented the 12 tribes of Israel, and usually it was changed every Shabbat, and had frankincense on it.
Verse 31, and you shall make a lampstand of clean gold. The lampstand is made of beaten work. Its base and its shaft, its cups, its ornamental knobs and blossoms are from it. And 6 branches shall come out of its sides, 3 branches of the lampstand out of one side, and 3 branches of the lampstand out of the other side. 3 cups made like almond flowers are on one branch, with ornamental knob and blossom, and 3 cups made like almond flowers on the other branch, with ornamental knob and blossom. So for the 6 branches coming out of the lampstand. And on the lampstand itself are 4 cups made like almond flowers, with ornamental knob and blossom, and a knob under the first 2 branches of the same, and a knob under the second 2 branches of the same, and a knob under the third 2 branches of the same, according to the 6 branches coming out of the lampstand. Their knobs and their branches are of the same, all of it one beaten work of clean gold. And you shall make 7 lamps for it, and they shall mount its lamps so that they give light in front of it. And its snuffers and their trays are of clean gold. It is made of a talent of clean gold with all these utensils.
Okay, so what I was saying earlier is that we have a worksheet that actually has you counting all the little cups and the ornamental knob and the blossoms and the light. And so we try to put every detail that was mentioned in these verses into this lampstand. Now, the interesting thing is that we don't see any measurements for it. So the Jews say that it was about 4.5 feet tall, but we don't really know since it's not in there. Now, we do have measurements for the other ones, but for some reason, Abba did not give us the measurements for this lampstand.
So see and do according to the pattern which was shown to you on the mountain. Chapter 26. And make the dwelling place with 10 curtains of fine woven linen, and blue and purple and scarlet material. Make them with cherubim, the work of a skilled workman. The length of each curtain is 28 cubits, and the width of each curtain 4 cubits, all the curtains having one measure. 5 curtains are joined to each other, and 5 curtains are joined to each other. And you shall make loops of blue on the edge of the end curtain on one set, and do the same on the edge of the end curtain of the second set. Make 50 loops in the one curtain, and make 50 loops on the edge of the end curtain of the second set. the loops being opposite to each other. And you shall make 50 hooks of gold, and shall join the curtains together with the hooks, and the dwelling place shall be one.
Okay, so what we're looking at here is the curtain that was on the set apart place. It had cherubim on it, and as well as the covering. Now this is the first covering that went over the dwelling place. So what it was it was 5 curtains connected to 5 more, and then down the middle is where you see those blue loops and then the gold clasp that kept the curtain together there. And so the materials, again, were used, the blue, the purple, and the scarlet wool, and then the fine linen as well.
Verse 7, and you shall make curtains of goat's hair for a tent over the dwelling place. Make 11 curtains. The length of each curtain is 30 cubits, and the width of each curtain 4 cubits, 1 measure to the 11 curtains. And you shall join the 5 curtains by themselves, and the 6 curtains by themselves, and you shall double over the 6 curtains at the front of the tent. And you shall make 50 loops on the edge of the curtain that is outermost in one set, and 50 loops on the edge of the curtain of the second set. And you shall make 50 bronze hooks, and put the hooks into the loops, and join the tent together, and it shall be one. And the overlapping part of the rest of the curtains of the tent, the half curtain that remains, shall hang over the back of the dwelling place. And a cubit on one side and a cubit on the other side of what remains of the length of the curtains of the tent is to hang over the sides of the dwelling place, on this side and on that side, to cover it.
Okay, so I'm going to go back one slide. So when we look at that first curtain, the measurements in feet, because we don't speak cubit language, was the first curtain was 60 feet long, and then it was 42 feet wide. The dwelling place itself was 45 feet long and wide. Okay, so when you look at that first curtain, it was exactly the same width as the dwelling place, but it was longer by 15 feet so that it hung over the sides. Okay, and then the second covering was even longer because there were 5 curtains joined to 6. So that one was an extra curtain piece there. So that one is actually, it is 66 feet long and 45 feet wide. So the width is the same as the dwelling place, but the length was 66 feet long. Okay, so that one was even longer than the first covering.
And you shall make a covering of ram skins dyed red for the tent, and a covering of fine leather above that.
Okay, so like the lampstand, for some reason we are not given measurements for this one, so we drew it to the best of our ability, and we just drew it so that it would be shorter than the other 2. Okay, and so the reason for the leather being above everything else is that it was exposed to the elements, and so it would have withstood more of the rain and the harsh climate. So those are your 4 coverings for the dwelling place. Not made yet.
Verse 15, and for the dwelling place you shall make the boards of acacia wood standing up. 10 cubits is the length of a board, and a cubit and a half the width of each board. 2 tenons in each board for binding one to another. Do the same for all the boards of the dwelling place. And you shall make the boards for the dwelling place, 20 boards for the south side, and make 40 sockets of silver under the 20 boards, 2 sockets under each of the boards for its 2 tenons. And for the second side of the dwelling place, on the north side, 20 boards, and their 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under each of the boards. And for the extreme parts of the dwelling place, westward, make 6 boards, and make 2 boards for the 2 back corners of the dwelling place. And they are double beneath, and similarly, they are complete to the top, to the one ring. So it is for both of them. They are for the 2 corners. And they shall be 8 boards, and their sockets of silver, 16 sockets, 2 sockets under the one board, and 2 sockets under the other board. And you shall make bars of acacia wood, 5 for the boards on one side of the dwelling place, and 5 bars for the boards on the other side of the dwelling place, 5 bars for the boards of the side of the dwelling place, for the extreme parts westward, with the middle bar in the midst of the boards, going through from end to end. And overlay the boards with gold, and make their rings of gold as holders for the bars, and overlay the bars with gold.
Okay, so what we're looking at here is this is the structure of the dwelling place. So it started off with the acacia wood board, and then it was overlaid in gold. Okay, so for the north and south side, there were 20 boards, okay? And then they rested on these silver sockets, and each board had 2 sockets. So you can see here are your 2 sockets. And then the boards themselves had these 2 tenons. So each board had 2 tenons that were bronze, and then they fit into those silver sockets. So this made it just very easy to disassemble and assemble, because Yahweh thinks of everything. Because you never knew when that cloud was going to be lifted up. It could be days, it could be months, it could be years. I'm sure they didn't have as much fun when it moved after a few days. This still probably work. Okay, and so then this is really interesting, again, because Yahweh's like the master architect and designer. So for the north and south side, you had these 5 bars. The middle one was completely one piece, and then the top and bottom ones were split in the middle there, and the same thing for the west side. And so I wasn't sure if you caught this, but the 2 ends were double board. So that's why there's 8 boards, because you only see 6 here, but the one on this side and the one on this side was doubled up for strength there. So that's how you come up with 8 boards. And so right now this is just looking at the north and south side and then the back, because the front wouldn't have any boards, right? Because it had the veil, the outer veil.
And you shall raise up the dwelling place according to its pattern, which you were shown on the mountain.
Now he repeats himself, the pattern which you were shown on the mountain. Okay, now we're going to get more into the veils.
And you shall make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet material, and fine woven linen, the work of a skilled workman, made with cherubim. And you shall put it on the 4 columns of acacia wood, overlaid with gold, their hooks of gold, upon 4 sockets of silver. And you shall hang the veil from the hooks, and shall bring the ark of the witness there behind the veil. And the veil shall make a separation for you between the set apart and the most set apart place. And you shall put the lid of atonement upon the ark of the witness in the most set apart place.
Okay, so yeah, what we're looking at here is that inner veil right here that I'm circling. It had the cherubim on it, just like the first covering had the cherubim on it, so that's really cool when you look up to see that image right there of the cherubim. And so the inner veil actually had gold pillars and silver sockets, and then we're going to find out that the outer veil had different pillars. It was not gold. It's just because Yahweh likes to keep things consistent, and he puts a lot of detail into why those items are the way that they are. And we'll learn more about that later on in the Torah portions.
And you shall set the table outside the veil, and the lampstand opposite the table on the side of the dwelling place toward the south, and put the table on the north side. And you shall make a covering for the door of the tent of blue and purple and scarlet material and fine woven linen made by a weaver. And you shall make for the covering 5 columns of acacia wood and overlay them with gold, their hooks of gold, and you shall cast 5 sockets of bronze for them.
Okay, so another difference between the inner veil and the outer veil is that there is no cherubim on there, and instead of 4 gold pillars, there are 5 now, and then the sockets are bronze. And I believe the reason for that is because the courtyard basin and the courtyard altar was bronze to match. And so inside there were the 3 furniture pieces, I call them. You have the lampstand on the south side or on your left, and then you have the table of showbread on the north side or on your right. And then right before you go into the most set apart place, which no one was allowed except for Aharon, which we'll learn later about once a year. And so you have the altar of incense where they would put that incense on there, and then that fragrance would go up to Yahweh as sweet prayers to him.
Chapter 20. Chapter 27. Is this on?
I don't hear you.
I don't hear me either. Hello?
The batteries.
Hello? You just needed to fix it. Thank you.
He has the magic touch.
Chapter 27. And you shall make a slaughter place of acacia wood, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits wide. The slaughter place is square, and its height 3 cubits. And you shall make its horns on its 4 corners. Its horns are of the same. And you shall overlay it with bronze. And you shall make its pots to receive its ashes, and its shovels, and its basins, and its forks, and its fire holders. Make all its utensils of bronze. And you shall make a grating for it, a bronze network, and shall make on the network 4 bronze rings at its 4 corners, and shall put it under the rim of the slaughter place beneath, so that the network is halfway up the slaughter place. And you shall make poles for the slaughter place, poles of acacia wood, and shall overlay them with bronze. And the poles shall be put in the rings, and the poles shall be on the 2 sides of the slaughter place for lifting it. Make it hollow with boards, as it was shown to you on the mountain, so they are to make it.
Okay, so now we're looking at the bronze altar, the one where they did all the sacrifices. And so they had this removable bronze grating that was halfway up. And then you had an opening here where probably all the drippings and all that went. But the interesting here, unlike the Ark of the Witness, it said that those poles were never to be removed, okay? But here, these could be removed. And so the items that went with it are fire holders and then things to remove the ashes, which we're going to learn about later, is that the ashes were put in a pot and taken out. And then you also have the bronze basin where the priests would wash their hands and their feet to do their service. Okay, so this bronze altar was 7.5 feet long. Okay, so it was pretty big. It was 7.5 feet wide, and they say that it was 4.5 feet tall. Okay, and then it had its 4 rings, and then it had its 2 bronze bars that were used for lifting, but it all started off with the acacia wood, and it was overlaid with bronze.
Verse 9, and you shall make the courtyard of the dwelling place. For the south side screens for the courtyard made of fine woven linen, 100 cubits long for one side, and its 20 columns, and their 20 sockets of bronze, and the hooks of the columns, and their bands of silver. And so for the north side in length, screens 100 cubits long, with its 20 columns, and their 20 sockets of bronze, and the hooks of the columns, and their bands of silver. And, that's it.
Okay, so the north and south side of the courtyard, we're looking at that right now. And so there were 20 columns, and they were bronze, but then they had the silver bands, and then the hooks were silver, and then you had the pegs that were bronze. And this was 150 feet long. And it was 7.5 feet tall, so you really couldn't see inside of there. If you weren't a part of it, if you weren't inside the courtyard, you wouldn't be able to see what was going inside of there, okay? Unless you were really tall.
And the width of the courtyard on the west side, screens of 50 cubits, with their 10 columns and their 10 sockets.
Okay, so then the west side had half the columns. It had 10 columns, and so it was half the footage. So that one is 75 feet, and it is 75 feet wide and 7.5 feet tall. And then now we're going to look at the last side.
And the width of the courtyard on the east side, 50 cubits. And the screens on one side of the gate, 15 cubits, with their 3 columns and their 3 sockets. And on the other side, screens of 15 cubits, with their 3 columns and their 3 sockets. And for the gate of the courtyard, a covering 20 cubits long, of blue and purple and scarlet material, and fine woven linen, made by a weaver, 4 columns and 4 sockets. All the columns around the courtyard have bands of silver, their hooks of silver, and their sockets of bronze.
Okay, so total footage of this would have been 75 feet, but there is a gate. This is where the animals were brought to the door of the tent of meeting, and then they would go inside the courtyard. The offerer would go inside with their sacrifice. But you do have, on each side, you have those linen, the linen fabric, and those are the screens, the linen screens as well. And so those are each... the 2 screens are 30 feet, okay, so, and then together, and then the gate itself was 45 feet, okay, and then that would match the total footage of the west side.
Okay, I already read this, but I'll read it again.
Okay, so this is just a zoomed-in perspective of the gate of the courtyard there. And so all of them had the bronze columns there with the silver band there, and then the silver sockets, and then the pegs were also bronze. And so that was the gate of the courtyard on the east side.
Verse 18, the length of the courtyard is 100 cubits, and the width 50 by 50, and the height 5 cubits, woven of fine linen thread, and its sockets of bronze. All the utensils of the dwelling place, for all its service, all its pegs, and all the pegs of the courtyard are bronze.
Okay, so this is just looking at the courtyard itself, how that would have looked all set up there. And so we have the west side. Okay, then we have the north side here. We have the south side here. And then we have the east side here with the gate. And so that was Yahweh's instruction to Moshe while he was on the mountain. Thank you, everyone. I don't think so. I would know it, yeah.
All right. Awesome job by Rebbe and Julie. Hopefully you guys learned a lot. I think it really helps to see. Those visuals make such a difference, so you can kind of go, oh, that's what it means that when it talks about these different things and how they work out, and, seeing where the different gate area was at the end there and the different color of the curtains there and et cetera. Okay, I think it's really, really a powerful presentation, and we're going to get a lot more of this over the next couple of weeks. All right? Yeah. All right, so we're going to have Brianna come up and do the announcements, and then get your questions ready because we'll be coming back up here to answer questions. I will also be addressing all of the other issues that are in this Torah portion, okay? All right, so Brianna, come on up. We'll get you set up with the mic.
Sorry. I know you don't like it when I do. No, it's good now. I just slightly turned it. All right. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. What was that? Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Woo! Let's start by welcoming all of our guests. All right. Well, welcome to our Friday night Torah study, all of our guests online, as well as if you're in the room. I get to give you a little bit of an introduction of what we provide as a ministry. So while we would love to treat you as guests, just a quick little reminder, I say it every time, but for the guests, we just expect for you to be respectful. And it's very basic stuff. You should learn it when you're in first grade, right? There's leadership online, leadership in the room. We just need to be respectful of that, okay? Great, and we'll all have a great time. So we, a part of the things that we provide as ministry is we live stream on YouTube twice a week. Our first one being our Shabbat service. This is every Shabbat at 1:15, and online it starts at 1 o'clock, so you can join the room and get acquainted with each other. The service goes till around 5:30 usually, and it's filled with a lot to do. So it gives us a great way to interact on Shabbat, which is one of our best things that we provide. The next live stream that we do is our Torah study on Friday nights, which is what we're doing right now. And if you're here locally, right before that we do our Erev Shabbat meal at 6 o'clock. And so during that, we just do some liturgy for Erev Shabbat, and we get to have a little bit of a fellowship meal time. So that's something to look forward to if you move here. Then the live stream for the Torah study starts at 7:30, and during the Torah study, we go over that week's Torah portion. So this week we had Rebbe and Julie and Miss Selena do their presentation, which was great. Well, didn't they do great? and they'll be doing that for a couple more weeks, which is exciting. So, and then afterwards, usually we have readers, but this time we had the presentation. Afterwards, Rabbi will come out and give his notes on the Torah portion. And then after that, if you have any questions that he didn't go over, he gives us the opportunity to ask them. So online, you can already think about any questions that you might have had from the presentation. And after Rabbi speaks, he's going to bring up even more points. So just keep that in mind for afterwards. If you want to follow along with us, we have a Parsha schedule available on our website. You can download that. It is under the Resources tab. And so for the Torah portion schedule, it is Genesis through Deuteronomy in the yearly cycle. So what we went over today, the date for Terumah is for the Friday nights that we will be going over them. So you know during that Torah study we'll be going over that date. So it makes it a little bit easier for you. And then also on there you can see we have the Haftorah portions that are related and the Brit Chadashah. For our children, which you kind of got to see today, but for really any age group, but primarily the children, we have our Parsha Pros program ran by Rebus and Julie. And so this is on their very own website, MTOI.org, and we split their content into 2 different age groups. The Gem Seekers is ages 5 through 8, and the Pearl Seekers is ages 9 through 99 plus, because as we showed today, really this content is very robust. Yeah, thank you. There's a lot in it, and you can get a lot out of it no matter what age you are. But primarily, we made this for the kids because there really isn't anything like it. If you look online, this is all made by us, for free. So it's just fantastic. So what is included in the program is child-friendly stories and lessons, lesson questions, Hebrew word studies, memory verses, word searches, crossword puzzles, mazes, crafts, notebook pages, coloring pages, songs, and a snack. And again, they're all Torah portion related. So what we went over today for the adults, you can also access that same lesson for the children so that they can have something to do during the Shabbat time. We also post it at the beginning of the week on Sundays so that if you want to work on it with your children throughout the week, that you also have that availability. And if you have any questions about the program, you can email parshapearls@mtoi.org, and Revison will gladly answer any questions that you have. All right, if you are someone that likes to hear the scripture being read, we have audio scripture readings read by Miss Shira Wenling. And so she did an amazing job of reading everything from Genesis through Revelation. And since we've been talking about Torah portions, she read the first 5 books according to their Parsha. So if you want to follow along with the Torah portion schedule, you can also listen to it throughout the week. And it's just a great little thing that we have provided for you. And so this is on our website. On YouTube, we post Monday through Friday. On Mondays, we get our first look, which is just a preview to the teaching that we posted later in the week, just to give you a quick little, I guess preview is the word, but it gets you excited for the full teaching. So definitely subscribe to our YouTube, turn on the notifications so that you get notified whenever we do post. Especially if you're forgetful like me, it's really nice to just get notified, hey, here's a new YouTube video, and then you just watch it. And then next, on Tuesdays, we get YouTube Shorts and Rabbi Trails. They're 10 videos each, so 20 total. They're 1-minute segments from teachings, and this tends to be our most popular video because people really like the shorter videos, hence the word shorts. But these videos are also on our TikTok, and technically it's more like 30 videos because I pick different ones from the YouTube and the app. So just lots of content all throughout the different platforms. So next, on Wednesdays, we get the full teaching. Right now, it's that teaching that was like from a Torah study and then part of the prayer and praise time. So we call it the Battle Over Authority. And so definitely check that out if you haven't already. And then on Thursdays, we get the afterburn session from that teaching, which is just a Q&A session, and also thoughts. Occasionally, we get people who have really good things to say about the teaching. So definitely check those out, because maybe a question you had about the teaching gets answered. Then on Fridays, lastly, we get our In Focus videos, which are pretty important topics that are from the teaching, but they are so important that we can just put them in a separate video. So if you go to the In Focus playlist, pretty much all of your questions probably could be answered from those videos, and they're only 5 to 10 minute long videos. So if you have questions, sometimes it's kind of cool to just look through the In Focus, because we do take out the really important topics from the teachings. All right, then we're also on social media. On Facebook, we are MTOI Worldwide. On TikTok and Instagram, we're MTOI_Worldwide. And I would definitely follow us if you're already on those platforms. I am trying to find more ways to create more content, including if you saw that we're going to introduce a new cooking style show put on our YouTube, which will be really exciting. And so definitely check those out, because if you want to stay tuned with all the new things that we are going to be putting out very soon, it'll all be coming from there probably first. So definitely check those out if you are already on those platforms. Next, you can also check out my new album. It's on the app, on Spotify. It's also on Apple Music, YouTube, most platforms, and it's all free and available for you to use and enjoy. So this is the praise album, Into the Light. And so 14 tracks on there, and then you can listen to them on the Shabbat if you don't want to listen to Christian music, because it seems like everything out there that's messianic is more Christian. So I promise this is all 100% things that are not Christian. They're kosher. They're kosher songs. Can I say that?
Well said.
So yes. Then we have our very own MTOI app, with over 4,750 downloads now. And so on the app, we have all of our content that I've listed, and also it notifies you whenever we have new YouTube videos, so you get double notifications from YouTube and the app. So you shouldn't miss it. And also we get general notifications from Rabbi. He sends out Shabbat Shaloms, and also sometimes will remind us of important things, like the pledge campaign and other things like that. So if you do have the app and you want to get notified, you have to hit the profile button and then scroll down to the notifications button. It's replaying. Let me follow along with it. Notifications, and then general, and you slide it and it turns green. And then you should get notified with all of our new content, which is really a neat thing that we have for our app. For our teenagers, we have the Torah Teens class with Rabbi Tom. And sometimes Rabbi Steve, but primarily Rabbi Tom. This class is on Thursdays at 1 o'clock and 9 o'clock Eastern Time, and this is for the teenagers, so 13 through 19, this is the class for them. And to access this class, it's on Zoom. So to get the link, you have to email torahtime@mtoi.org, and you will get an autoresponder link to the class, and then that link will work every single time. So you don't have to email them every time. And this is a great class for the teenagers all around the world. It's amazing, and they really love the interaction with each other and with Rabbi Tom, engaging in the Word. So it's just a very great class, because the teenagers don't always get that opportunity to talk to people who are just like them, and it's a really great opportunity for them. If you are a parent and you want to make sure what your child is learning is appropriate, that's fine as long as you stay off camera, because we don't want them to feel uncomfortable with a parent in the room and it just not keep them engaged. All right, the next thing I'm going to talk about is our zone meetings. Since we are an international ministry, we are trying to engage everybody around the world during their Shabbat time. And since during Eastern time, 1 p.m., it's not always convenient for everyone around the world because their Shabbat might already be over. So for these zone meetings, Rabbi gives certain time zones, he groups them together so to ask questions. So they're Q&As. So the next one coming up is actually tonight. It's Zone 3. So the fun isn't over yet. After this, we got Zone 3. But this is usually on Friday nights because they're so far ahead in time zone. But these are for people in Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Philippines, Malaysia, and all other related time zones to ask their questions. But everyone is welcome and encouraged to join the meetings. It just won't be your opportunity to ask the questions for Zone 3. But this will be after Torah study tonight at 10 p.m. And if you want to join, it is on Zoom. So you have to email zoom@mtoi.org to get an autoresponder link. And then you can use that for both Zone 3 and Zone 2, which I will get into in a minute. So another thing about the zone meetings is Zone 3 and Zone 2 are not recorded because Rabbi wants it to be just like a very intimate, one-on-one kind of event, I guess is the word to use. And so if you do end up missing out, there's no way to rewatch it in the future. So it's just, I feel like it's a much better idea to just join, and you might be a little groggy, but like, I think it's okay. We need to, it's a really great way to get your Shabbat prep, like prep your heart and your head for the next, for the teaching the next day. All right, so the next Zone meeting will be for Zone 1, the live streamers. And this is for United States, Canada, Mexico, South America, Central America, and all related time zones to ask their questions. This will be on Shabbat during the regular teaching time on YouTube Live, March 9th. And so another thing about this is the people asking the questions will be on Zoom, but we'll be broadcasting it live. So for this meeting, if you are in those time zones and countries, you will join the meeting on Zoom, and that's how you'll ask your questions. So if you haven't done it already, again, email zoom@mtoi.org, and then we'll actually get to see them live, and it's just really cool if it works, hopefully. But yes, next is Zone 2. This is on that same day, on March 9th at 10 a.m., and this will be for United Kingdom, Europe, Africa to ask their questions. And again, this is for everyone to join, but not everyone gets to ask the questions. But it is really great to join. So I've never regretted joining. I always regret when I don't. I'm not perfect. I've not come to every single one, but I do try to my best to join every single one. All right, and if you have any additional questions and you don't want to bring them to a Zone meeting, you can go to our Contact Us page, or you can send an email to questions@mtoi.org, and you will probably get a better answer at the Zone meetings, but you can do it this way as well. All right, next is Rabbi traveling to Ohio on March 2nd. The Mansfield, Ohio extension. And so if you are in that area and you want to know more information about that, you can email, it's also up there, but I will also read it out, sam.davidson@mtoi.org, and you will be able to get more information on that and if you're wanting to join. So that will be exciting for you guys. Boo-hoo for us. The Leadership Council meeting is going to be March 10th at 12 o'clock, and these happen once a month with all of our leaders, all the men from the leadership join this meeting, and they are joining together to talk about how to best serve the body as a whole. And so we just announced this because we think that we should be doing our part and pray for them. So definitely mark this date on your calendar so that we can pray for them. We have Rosh Chodesh for Adar 2. This will be Sunday, March 10th at 8 o'clock. So definitely join us for that. The service is not very long, but Rabbi always gives us a little bit of words of encouragement. So it's definitely a great thing to join for some monthly encouragement. Next, we have Purim. It's March 24th at 5 o'clock. So this will be on a Sunday, and we'll have a meal together, and we'll read the book of Esther, and then it'll be a good time and a good celebration. And it's not going to be live streamed, but just move here. I don't know what to say. All right, something to keep in mind is daylight savings is going to begin on Sunday, March 10th. So you're going to have to set your clock forward for that. It'll be forward. Okay, I have to look at the notes as well because I don't want to miss something. But yes, that's it for that. Just keep that in mind. We have the Pesach craft prep party coming up. So this is on Sunday, March 31st at 10 o'clock. And just something to keep in mind is, it says it there, but not everyone remembers. No children, please, is something that we try to do for this prep party. And it's also just for the ladies, correct? Okay. It's not written here, so I'm just making sure. Yeah, it's just for the ladies and no children. All right, next we have Pesach coming up. And we have 336 people registered now. Huh? Oh, yeah, I know. Okay. Anyway, this will be April 22nd through the 30th. And if you haven't gotten your registration in, go ahead and get that in, please, because it makes it a lot easier for us to get everything ready if you get that in. And then also you can go to the schedule. You can access the schedule on the website under the Passover tab. All right, that's it for me. Thank you.
Amen. All right, excellent job, Brianna. Appreciate that. Gonna clean up some of these things here. Okay. All right. So let me just go over a few more things in the announcements, and then we'll get into the discussion, and I'll give you some of my thoughts and insights from this week's Torah portion. Okay. So first of all, year-end letters have gone out. This might be one of the last times I'll mention it because you all should have gotten them by now. It's over 2 weeks since the end of last month, so we're not going to mention that. But if you haven't gotten it, please contact us. If you did get it and you have any issues with it, please contact them because you'll have gotten a letter with their contact information. We have already made some adjustments to those few people that have contacted us and also gotten addresses and other things to people, to the accounting firm that they needed them for you. Now, with the addresses, so one of the challenges we're having is, and I looked this up the other day just to double check. So a lot of you that are using, first of all, a lot of you are using Subsplash. That's really good. I don't have a problem with that. I'm really glad that that's working out. Almost none of you are putting your address in Subsplash. Okay, like when you create your Subsplash account, you're not putting an address. Okay, I don't know if you're just going in there and just doing it as a guest and then you're making your donation and that's fine. So we don't have a way to know, how to get, you a statement at the end of the year because we don't have an address. So you'll need to go into your Subsplash account and put your address in. And then I'll have a secondary problem, which is figuring out how to print a report with all your addresses because at the moment I don't have a button to click to do that. I'll have to contact them to find that out. Okay? But in the meantime, if it was for last year, 2023, and you gave exclusively on Subsplash and you did not get a statement, please send admin@mtoi.org, admin@mtoi.org, or call us at the phone number on the screen and let us know your address so we can try to get you your statement, right, your donor letter. Okay. By the way, if you noticed, I've not once said, and by the way, I just want to say, without your help, none of this could be, okay. All right, we don't do that. It's not that I don't appreciate your help. I will tell you I appreciate your participation tremendously. However, without your help, somebody else would have stepped in, just so you know. And that's actually a part of what we're going to talk about at the beginning of this Torah portion that Rebbetzin did mention a little bit, okay? Now, but we do appreciate those of you that have participated, okay? Because, remember what Mordecai said to Esther? He said, look, if this is your opportunity to step up, but if you don't, somebody else will, and you'll have missed your spot. You'll have missed your opportunity, right? Okay. The pledge campaign, almost all of the incoming pledges has dwindled down to like one every couple of days now. That's fine, no problem. We're just short of $1 million pledged, which is fantastic, all right? Okay. There are some pledges that I have not marked down in my calculations because some of you have just decided to send money through Subsplash or whatever without actually sending an email saying you're pledging, which is fine. I'll try to figure it out from when I look at the giving list and see, oh, you gave, but you weren't part of the pledge list. Please, if you gave, just take an extra few seconds, go on the website, MTOI.org, building project, which should be on the support tab, okay? There's only two things on the support tab, right? Donations and the building project, and fill out the form at the bottom of the page with your pledge, or send an email to us at pledges@mtoi.org and just say, hey, I'm pledging at whatever level it is. Put the levels on the screen. Okay, so, stream support is $100 to $1,999, et cetera. Then Sapphire has 3 levels, Ruby, and then Emerald, et cetera. And somebody gave today, and I said Emerald when it was Ruby, so I gave you the wrong number. But anyway, but the thing is, just so everybody knows, all right, it helps for the bank to know what you pledged. It doesn't mean I need the money right this second. I need it as soon as you can, get around to it. But please send us something that says, I am pledging this amount, okay? All right, that would help a lot in their decision. Remember, this is all about the decision to decide if we're going to get to build 2 buildings or just 1 initially, okay? Now, if we don't get enough to do 2 at the same time, it simply means we'll have more to build the first building nicely and everything else efficiently and have less to finance, et cetera, but we're looking to have enough to get that second building, okay, being built at the same time, which is the dining hall, right? We're going to build the worship center and the dining hall. Okay, and so anybody watching, again, just to be really clear, we have enough funds to build the first building, not to pay for it in full, but to build the first building, to be approved and everything fine. We probably have close to enough. I think we have enough as far as the bank's concerned to do 2 buildings, but they require for their underwriting, they want this campaign, okay? All right. So we have over 300 donors, which is still mind-boggling to me that it's only 300. There's more than 300 people watching right now, okay? How many computers are on right now? There's 450 computers on now. Saturdays, it averages more like 700, okay? And yet only 300 people have pledged. We're going to address that when we get to the Torah portion, all right? Okay, but for all those who did, I really appreciate your participation in this project. And again, we'll deal with that in a minute here when we get to the Torah portion. All right, so that's it for my announcements. Let me go ahead and, excuse me, and pull out my scriptures here. This is going to be a little tough to do with your computer here, but I'll figure it out. Okay. No, I don't think we want to do that because, we don't need it again until next week, right? So hopefully I can just unplug these things without messing up anything. Here, take this, and you might need to turn it off by opening it up and turning it off and everything, but that's a little bit more room for these things to sit. All right, because otherwise I'm going to slide right off the papers. All right, so we're in Exodus chapter 25. Okay, now, before Rebbetzin started doing the Torah portions, this used to be known as the chapter that birthed what teaching? What? Follow the pattern. Very good. This is the follow the pattern chapter. Okay, follow the pattern chapter. All right, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's start in verse 2, though. Take up a contribution for me. Yahweh says, speak to the children of Israel, take up a contribution for me. From everyone whose heart moves him, you shall take up the contribution. Now, I don't think Rebbetzin mentioned it this way necessarily, but, there's an understanding through the Jewish sages, and of course you also mentioned some of the quirky things that they come up with sometimes, but there's an understanding from the Jewish sages that this is not just saying all those whose hearts are moved, it's also saying, I don't want it from you if you don't have your heart moved. And I like that interpretation, because I don't want it either if your heart's not moved. Okay? And so when you hear me talking about the pledge campaign or whatever, it's only if your heart's moved. Okay? He's like, if your heart's not moved, then keep it. We'll do it a different way. All right? And I think that's a really good way to look at it. And I want you to just remember that you have to look at what's we have to stop looking at this like church, okay? Or whatever system you were in, or just the world, okay? This is a very specific structure. And in this structure, there is participation in a vertical structure, that this participation going upwards, and there's participation going downwards. And there's participation going horizontally, okay? And so we have to be thinking about what are our responsibilities in terms of participation. Some of you, most of you probably, have gone through the mikvah with the 8 declarations that we do at MTOI. Okay? Now, if you don't know what that's all about, go under, I think it's under the Holy Days tab, and scroll down at where the resource, I forget where it is. Is Tommy back there? Holy Days page? Okay. Huh? Yes, okay. So the Holy Days tab, and on the bottom will be mikvah declarations. Now, those 8 declarations are about making a public declaration of putting to death, basically, burying the old you and your commitments and your allegiances and the vertical structure or whatever that you were in before. And that you're now making a commitment to come under the full authority of Elohim, and you're making a commitment to take on all the responsibilities of being a citizen in the kingdom of Elohim. And some of those responsibilities include your participation in those 3 directions. Participating with those if you may have responsibility below you. Participation with those above you who have responsibility over you or are responsible to provide and help you with different things. And responsibility with those at your same level. And one of the responsibilities is to follow your heart in serving Him. If your heart is moved, could you imagine if you were here that your heart would not have been moved? Right? I mean, if you were here, would your heart have been moved? Would you have found something to contribute? Of course you say yes. Is it really that different? I'm not saying it's the same thing, but is it really that different when we're building what we're building here that's to serve and provide for you? Actually, in some ways, it's very different, and actually even more so, I would think you get excited about, because guess what? Even though the tabernacle in the wilderness was for you, very few minutes were spent by anybody but the priests in it. Okay? So it wasn't really for everybody, even though it served everybody, right? Because you would bring your offerings and those kind of things to the tabernacle. And the priest did all the work there. What we're building is literally for all of you. And you'll all be in it on a regular basis and benefiting from it and participating, right? And so, I'm just throwing that out there again. I don't want if your heart's not moved. Okay? Matter of fact, please take this the right way. And it's not about the money here. In general, not just with the finances, whatever, if your heart's not moved with what the Father's doing here, why are you here? Okay? Okay? Some of you physically moved here and left your heart in San Francisco or wherever you came from, okay? Hey, I'm a Tony Bennett fan. What can I say? Some of you are like, who's Tony Bennett? All right, well, look him up. All right? So, you came with your body. Some of you came with your attitude, too. But did you come with the heart to participate and contribute? And by contribute, I don't just mean money. I mean, are you here to contribute? Do you show up? That's contributing. Do you make yourself available to interact with each other? That's contributing, okay? I mean, there's so many ways you can contribute. And so it doesn't mean you actually come here and actually do something physically in serving. Just being here. All of you that are here tonight are contributing. If you weren't here, we would be lacking some element that you bring, okay? And so there's a participation. And so here, I think, is a great metaphor when he says, speak to the children of Israel to take up a contribution for me. Okay, bear in mind, these things are all for him, all the money that ever goes in the direction of the authority structure is always for him. Now, he decides to give some of it for other purposes, like he gives some to the priest, right? But it's still for him. You're doing it because it's your heart being moved towards him. And also, can we not appreciate that these things that are available and being provided for you are for you? Okay? Do you know, if other people did not have their hearts moved, well, let me start this way. How many of you only came to know about us because of YouTube? Okay, probably 3/4 of the hands just went up. Okay, well, we're on YouTube, and the reason you heard about us is because other people found us, and the reason you heard about us is because Abba blessed us with contributions to get the equipment, to put the quality of broadcast together so that we could have the experience that you had when you got to watch us and participate at a distance, okay? So other people contributed. Their hearts were moved so that you could have your heart moved. And so, I don't know, they say put your money where your mouth is, but I think it's where your heart is really more the, because people talk, and actually it is where your mouth is too, because you talk about, well, I'm a covenant, I'm this, I'm that, but I still can tell you would be shocked how few of you actually are tithing, okay? I know that would be shocking to some of you, but the percentage, I promise you, is less than 50%, which actually is a pretty high percentage if it's more than 20%, the old 80-20 rule. I mean, Elder can tell you when we're back in your days in the churches, what was it, under 10%, okay, participate. Now, that doesn't mean people weren't giving, but I mean as far as tithing, which is the consistent giving of that first 10%. And so, but see, that's where, don't talk that talk, and you're really not walking that walk. Don't. People might not know, but he knows. You're not fooling, can I really be clear with this? You're not fooling him. You may think you're fooling me, or your friend, or your whatever, other congregant member. You are not ever going to fool him. Because he knows, he examines the kidneys, it says. He examines the marrow. He examines your heart. He knows not only what you're doing, he knows why you're doing it, or why you're not doing it. Okay? And so it's interesting that he didn't just say take up a contribution. He said, go find out whose hearts are moved and ask them to contribute. Interesting. Do you know in Deuteronomy 16, where it talks about the 3 times a year, right? 16, 16, and 17. It says that each one is to bring a gift according to the blessing of Yahweh your Elohim, which he has given you. Interesting. So in other words, you're supposed to be looking to see the blessing and appreciate the blessing he's given you. Do you know what it also says in Scripture? What kind of giver does he like? A cheerful giver. I watch some of you walk up to the box and you're like, oh. Okay, Actually, that's not true. Because you know what? Those of you that are like that don't actually put anything in the box. The ones who do are excited about it. Okay? When some of you make a decent living, a real decent living, and don't give, I got other people that are frustrated that they can't make enough money so they can give more. Or that they are only on Social Security and they wish they had more money because you don't tithe on Social Security, but they want to give something. They want to tithe. And some of you make, 70, 80, over 100,000 and won't tithe. Because you managed to be broke at a higher tax bracket. And by the way, if you're poor, don't think that having a lot of money fixes everything, because you could be poor at 100,000. You could be up to your eyeballs in debt and have more stress than when you were poor. Okay? Because you can't get in as much trouble when you're poor. Okay? But you can get all kinds of things in trouble with when you have more, if you don't pay attention to what you're doing. But I just want to make sure that we're clear on this contribution thing. If your heart's not moved, that's okay. Don't give, okay? He doesn't want a forced giving, okay? He doesn't want a forced giving. Now, yes, if you're going to covenant, See, this is the part I want to make sure that we were clear when we were talking about tithing. Tithing is not an option. It's a requirement. You can argue all you want against it, but then you're arbitrarily trying to sound like the Christians who want to just do away with Torah. Well, I shouldn't say that. Christians only want to do away with the parts they don't want to do. You know. Some guy recently, by the way, how many of you would like me to do some rebuttal videos? Would that be something people would like to see? There are guys out there just attacking Torah observance in such big ways. This one guy recently was talking about, how the law of Moses was done away with. But then he wanted to focus on the laws he wanted to focus on. Because if you're going to say the law of Moses is done away with, then idolatry is fine, adultery is fine, murder is fine, stealing is fine, because those are all the laws of Moses. Okay? But don't tell me how to eat is what they want to do. Don't tell me what days to keep is what they want to do. Don't tell me how to dress, like we're in the seat, okay? But I'll agree with the things I agree with. I think nobody should murder or commit adultery or steal or whatever. I agree with that. Where in Exodus 19 did it say we needed to agree with what he said? We just had to agree to do what he said. Okay? It wasn't about, well, if you agree with what I say, then you agree to do whatever it is you agree with. It's almost like, to be as blunt as I can, he says, I'm God and you're not. Okay? And see, some of you haven't figured that out yet. See, and as God, that means he has the authority, not you. But you haven't gotten that message yet. And by the way, your lives are all jacked up, those who don't get that message. Those who get the message, I watch your lives change and transform in an upward slope into a very abundant place. There are those of you that come and get counsel and do what, we counsel you, and you get the results. But that's because you're recognizing his authority and the ones he speaks authoritatively through. The ones who don't, they don't ever get anywhere, Some of you wives are very frustrated because your husbands will not come to the leadership. And I understand why you're frustrated. Because those men are too much pride and ego to come and let any man tell them they might need to change something. But that's because you're already looking at it wrong. No man is going to talk to you. Because if you're coming here to hear a man, then you're in the wrong place. Because remember what Yitro said with Moses. They're coming to hear what Elohim has said through you. Actually, Moses was telling Yitro, look, they all come, they want to hear what Elohim has to say. Yitro says, fine, let them go through the channels, and then the ones that really are tough, then they can bring those to you. And you can tell them whatever Elohim says. But if you guys can't get that, we're not going to get anywhere, right? Go back and watch those videos from last week that we just posted all week long this week on the battle over authority. All right? Because your heart is going to exemplify that. Right? Oh, I love God so much. Well, how do you express that? Do you make coming here more important than something else? Do you make the Sabbath more important than something else? Do you make, where your heart is, okay? It says that your treasure is where your heart is. Well, what treasure? Well, it could be worldly treasure or it could be heavenly treasure, the above. What do you value? By the way, when it says where your heart is, where you treasure, it's saying what you treasure. There is a treasure there, but what you value the most, that's where your heart is. Your heart is going to be focused on what you value the most. And guess what happens from there? Action. Some people look at me like, well, I don't know how to tell my parents this or my boss this. Why are you struggling? Because your heart's not there. Because if your heart was there, it would be an easy thing to do. It wouldn't necessarily be pleasant. I didn't say that it would not have its issues, but it would be simple to do. Your niece or your nephew's getting married and they invite you to the wedding and it's on a Saturday and it's simple. You just say, I'm sorry, I can't go. But you're like, how could I do that? Well, obviously you're having a heart problem. You're more concerned about what others are going to think of you than what he's going to think of you. You're trying to protect their feelings instead of whatever he feels about you. Your heart is wrong. Okay? So what kind of contribution can you make if your heart's wrong? And I'm not just talking about money contribution. I'm saying, how can you contribute? Because I know a lot of people come here, one of the first things they say is, I want to help, I want to contribute in some way. And the problem is, don't come here with a preset idea of what that should look like. Elder's nodding his head because that's what happens. People come here thinking contributing means whatever they fill in the blank. Meanwhile, there's lots of ways you can contribute, but it may not be the grandiose way you want to do it or you envision doing it, right? Or some of you think, well, I can't contribute because I can't do whatever you think you need to do to contribute, but there's other things you can do. Everybody can do something, okay? Believe it or not, the simplicity of just showing up is contributing, okay? Because you know what? Everybody feels better when they see the room is full. Everybody feels better when they see the smiling faces. Everybody feels better when they see and talk to each other and realize everybody's going through the same stuff, right? Realizing you're not doing this alone. Well, that doesn't feel like contributing. It is, though. Now, it's not to say that's all you can do. Maybe there's a lot more you could do. But the thing is, showing up is contributing, okay? I shouldn't say that. Showing up with your heart right, and with your smile on, and with your attitude right is contributing. Otherwise, you're contributing to draw everybody down, okay? Come here looking like you're sucking on a pickle, you know, with a terrible attitude. You know, the camera got on me, that face. You know, that's going to contribute to drawing everybody down. Okay, don't drag everybody down. Come in here to contribute and to receive uplifting, encouragement, okay? All right, don't make me reiterate that. I'm sorry, that's a joke for Elder. Okay, so, okay? Listen, we have to understand what this is talking about, okay? All right. Now, let's see. Verses 3 through 7, okay? Listen to what the other part of this is. See, they weren't asked necessarily to bring money. They were asked to bring a contribution that was what was needed to complete the task. Okay? Because they needed gold, silver, and bronze. They needed purple, blue, and scarlet. They needed linen and goat's hair. They needed ram skins dyed red. They needed fine leather. They needed acacia wood. They needed oil. They needed all of these things. So it wasn't just, you know, throw some money at it, so to speak. Okay? So you should always be open to with an ear, right? Remember, by the way, because people come here saying, well, I don't know what to do to help. Well, you know, why don't you pay attention to what the leadership says they need? Okay? Because we do say from time to time what we need help with. Do you know, like almost every week, actually every week after services, for those of you that are not here, you know, Elder comes up, makes his after services announcements, which includes volunteers needed for cleanup after Oneg. And you know that every time just about, there's a hesitation for hands that go up. And he has to look around the room. There's almost 200 of you in here. He needs 6. That should have been, he could have picked from any 50 of you putting your hands up. Okay? Why don't the hands go up? Well, I don't want to clean up after the Oneg. But you want to contribute, right? Okay, tell you what, we're going to have a new policy. Elder, you're going to love the new policy. Okay? We're only going to help the people that we want to when we feel like it. All right? You know, okay? So will that work for you guys? If we're only available when we feel like it? Especially when we know. See, you don't want to do the Oneg cleanup because you know you're going to have to clean the kitchen or the bathroom or some other thing, and I don't want to do that. Well, you know what? Some of you, I know exactly what I'm going to deal with on the phone. So does Elder, and we got to deal with it anyway. He's like, I can't believe he's saying that from the microphone. So I think we'll just only help people when we feel like it. And if it's the kind of thing I want to do. Is that good for you? Do you understand that we don't pick and choose? We're just here for whatever is brought to us that's needed. We do whatever is needed. So why would you not just always raise your hand? Okay? Look, when I ask for the men to volunteer to pray, now we actually have a prayer list to sign up to pray before and after services. But when I used to ask for hands, every man's hand should have gone up every single week. And I should have been able to pick anybody I want. But some of you are like, well, I don't want to get up there. And I don't. Get over it. You know, what do you think you're going to be doing in the kingdom? Just hiding in a corner, living forever, and just being happy and doing nothing? I mean, what do you think it's going to be like? You don't think you're going to have to get in front of people and lead in some way and help in some, and have something more than just going and being, you're not going to be a forever hermit, okay? And I promise you that even in the forever, there's going to be some dirty jobs. This world's going to be a mess. I mean, after the tribulation, this world is going to be a horrible mess. And guess what? He's going to expect us to clean it up. You don't even want to go and do the bathrooms or the kitchens or to throw the garbage out or whatever. You know. Some of you worse than that. You don't even want to sit there and watch your kids. You'd rather just talk to each other. And you know what? I've about reached my limit on that. I'm about to take all the kids when I see them without a parent around them and just send them right to the parents and tell them to go home. All right? I found your child out there. You weren't around. Time to go. I'm not kidding. Why can't you understand they're your job? They're not my job. They're not the Shamashim's job. They're not the safety team's job. They're your job. So why are your children outside running around or inside? I'm talking about the little one. I'm talking like the 13, 14 and under. Or even especially like the 12 and unders. Or the single-digit ones, 5, 6-year-olds running around. And nobody's paying attention. And look, I used to follow my kids around everywhere. And I had a friend once come up and say, why are you covering all around your kid? I said, look, kids 2 years old, they need to be within 2 feet. Kids 3 years old, they can be 3 feet. Okay? Because whatever they're about to do, I need a very short time to get there quickly to stop whatever nonsense is about to happen out of that wild mind of a 2-year-old, right? Whatever they're going to come up with as a brilliant idea, and it's going to make a mess and break something or whatever. I said, but you guys are just thinking, oh, I'm with people today, and I'm going to do adulting, and I'm going to talk to my friends, and, oh, the kids will be fine. No, they're your problem. I've already told a few people, you can't do what you think you're doing and not parent. You heard Deirdre get up here the other day, talk about how I told her, look, you can't get in a dance circle anymore you have to watch your children. And she didn't like it when I said it at first, but then she really appreciated it later. That was part of her testimony, because she realized that was right. But where's your heart for all of these things? Okay, now, again with the contribution. The contribution is they were giving what was needed to complete the task. That's why I have announced the pledges the way I have, because it's what we need to complete the task. Simple as that. And you can participate in it or not. All right, now, then we get to verses 8, 9, and 40. This is the linchpin, center point, whatever, launching point for the follow the pattern teaching, okay? So it says, and they shall make me a set-apart place, and I shall dwell in their midst. According to all that I show you, the pattern of the dwelling place and the pattern of all its furnishings, make it exactly so. Okay, this is part of the reason that I point this out on a regular basis. Part of the reason is that let me start again. I have made the argument many times that the tablets that Moses had on the other side of them or somewhere was these diagrams, because he was shown a pattern, not just of the 10 Commandments, but he was shown the pattern of the dwelling place and the pattern of the furnishings, everything. I think he got blueprints, okay? I think he actually had blueprints. Okay, we don't know. I mean, we have the Moses image from the movies, right? The shape of the 10 Commandments tablets, they don't know what the shape looked like. They were just tablets, right? 5 on each one and on one side. And, well, actually, there's a verse that says it's written on both sides, okay? So I think a lot of what Yahweh said was put on those tablets. And I think the blueprints were there, too. Because Moses was shown this stuff, okay? But here's the important piece of this. He says, make me a dwelling place and do it exactly according to the pattern I've shown you in the heavenlies. And then we should know from 1 Corinthians that it says, do you not know that your body is the dwelling place of the set-apart Spirit who is in you, which you have from Elohim? So we're, this is 1 Corinthians 6:19, we are the dwelling place of the set-apart Spirit. So should we not be built exactly according to the pattern set on the mountain? I'm sure Paul was making that linkage. I'm sure he understood what he was doing there, okay? You are the dwelling place. What dwelling place is that about? By the way, by dwelling place, it's not just saying the Spirit dwells in you. It's the same phrasing in the Tanakh here in Exodus of build me a dwelling place. And you have to build it exactly. So you don't get to decide all the nuances of how you're going to bend and twist Torah observance. He wants you to do things exactly. All right? By the way, when you're building a building and you're not really sure about something, you're a worker building something, what are you going to do? You're going to ask your foreman, or you're going to ask the GC, the general contractor. You're going to look at the art, you pull out the blueprints. You're going to ask somebody to make a decision. Does the socket go here? Does the electrical thing go there, right? Does this piping go here? And that's the same thing like asking leadership, Deuteronomy 17 type stuff, questions about the halacha, the walk. Looking for, hey, am I doing this right? Is this what was intended? All right, so we got to follow the pattern exactly. Really important teaching, okay? Go listen to that teaching over and over again. All right, man, I don't know how much I want to cover. We do have until 10, and then we have to get to the zone 3. I am going to try to pay attention to that, okay? All right, so then in verse 17, we're still in chapter 25 here, but almost everything I'm going to cover is in chapter 25 and a little in 26, so I'm just going to cover it real quickly here. So in chapter 25, verse 16, it says, and into the ark you're going to put the witness which I give you, okay? Into the ark. So if you think about the ark, where was the ark put in the tabernacle? In the Holy of Holies in the center, okay? Okay, not like literally, because they have the courtyard with a certain size in it, but in the center, though, okay? It was the heartbeat center of the place. So this would be like your heart, okay? It would be the center if you are the dwelling place. So you're going to put the Ark of the Covenant. In other words, you're going to putting the covenant and what was in the Ark into your heart, which is the commandments, okay? But also we end up having the manna and the budding rod, which are miracles to remind you who he is and what he's done in your life. So what are your versions of the manna he provided you? Or some other miracle like the budding rod, something he did that was just like, wow, okay, he's real. Those things should be in here too. But they'll be placed in there. And then there's a lid put over all this. And what's the lid? It's called the lid of atonement. Atonement is a reconciliation, a thing that makes you at one with. When you atone, it reconciles you. So at one-ment would be another way to look at it, right? Atonement. And that was supposed to be a lid made of what? Clean gold. So how do you get clean gold? It goes through some fire. Is the fire hot? I mean, that's a really hot fire. Liquefies the gold. Then the stuff that's not pure, right, rises to the top, and you're able to get rid of that, right? You're able to get the dross off of there. All the impurities out of it. By the way, when you purify gold, do you sometimes have to do it more than once? So some of you are wondering, well, I've already been through a big fire. Maybe you're going to have to go through a few more. You're not pure yet. Okay? You may have to do it a few times to make sure you've got it. It didn't just say like 0.9 or 0.8%. No, pure. Okay? Pure gold. So I'm thinking that's 100%. Okay? As best that they could with whatever equipment they had to get it to be pure. But the symbology is what I'm talking about here, right? The symbol is that you're going to take this idea of reconciliation and atonement also has the idea of going through fire and being purified. And that covers the ark. The same thing like, look at you. If you're the dwelling place and the ark is in your heart, so to speak, then there has to be this pure gold level of at one minute atonement of reconciliation through repentance between you and him. So see that symbol there, right? So you can see the metaphor that's being pointed to there. Because you cannot have that kind of level of reconciliation with him. Remember, we were told that we were enemies before. When we were living as the world, we were enemies to him. Ephesians tells us that, right? We read that over and over again. We talk about that. You know, when we were walking as children of disobedience and doing whatever we were doing, we were dead in our trespasses, and we were his enemies. So we need to reconcile that. How do you reconcile that? By going through fire and purifying your gold. And see, a lot of you go through fire, you come out just as bad as you were because there's a second step to it. You go through the fire and you get rid of the impurities. I could take the gold, put it in through the fire, and then let it cool off, and I'll have two things kind of together. And the slag and the I have to take the impurities off. And so some of you go through the fire, you come out and you just have the mess still there, really. Because you haven't gotten rid of the things that have caused you to be impure. All right? So you have a problem. Now, if that wasn't enough metaphor, in verse 18 through 20, we says, and you shall make the two cherubim, okay, these are those the two that are watching over, okay, over on the top of the lid there, and they're going to be made of beaten work. So what are the cherubim supposed to be doing? They're like the guards over the lid, right? So what are the guards over your lid? Well, you got what you hear, what you think, what you see. So you got your thoughts. And guess what? It's made out of beaten work. You're going to take a beating to get that right. Okay, beaten work. You're going to beat that into the shape that it's supposed to be. Look, you have the many, the very well-known verses about the potter and the clay. And we know that clay takes a beating before you make it into anything. Because you have to get it into the condition that it's ready to be molded into. Whatever you want to make it, it has to be the right sort of malleability, right? It has to be moldable, and you can shape it at that point. Now, so again, this metaphor of pure gold, going through fire, a beaten. So look, you're going to go through fire and take a beating, is what he's telling you. So please don't be surprised, and don't complain. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to sit there and enjoy it, although James does say to count a joy in a trial. Okay, counting a joy and enjoying it are two different things. Count it joy. In other words, appreciate the purpose of it. Because he says that getting through it, it works endurance and all those other wonderful things, right? In James 1. So you got to count it joy. All right. So then we have, and by the way, the cherubim, just for all of you, who are learning the Hebrew and everything, it's a K sound. It's cherubim, or cheruvim, really, with a V sound. It's not ch, like cherub. Okay, that's Christianity would give us the cherubs. Okay, there's no ch sound in Hebrew. Okay, all right. The letter is a k sound, a hard C or a K sound. Okay, they're cherubim. All right, now of course the picture there is the cherubim that were put at guarding the entrance to the Garden of Eden. Okay, so you do have that linkage there as well, right? And so they're guarding what? The way to the tree of life. So the metaphor is that these cherubim over the ark are guarding something that is a tree of life. His word is a tree of life to you. So they are sitting there guarding like the entrance to the Garden of Eden. Okay? In Genesis 3:24 it says, he placed cherubim at the east of the garden when the flaming sword was turned each way to guard the way of the tree of life. So that they couldn't just go in there unless he wanted them to be able to go in there. So, of course, we have a way made for us to enter. Okay? Now, let's see. Verse 21, you shall put the lid of atonement on top of the ark and put into the ark the witness I give you. So the ark is covered with atonement, and the witness Torah is placed in the ark. So I already talked about that. Now, in verse 22, He says, and I shall meet you there, and from above the lid of atonement, from between the two cherubim which are on the ark of the witness, I shall speak to you all that which I command you concerning the children of Israel. Okay, so Yahweh meets with the anointed appointed above or over a foundation base of atonement. Say that again. Yahweh meets with the anointed appointed, right? He said, I'm going to meet with you, and you're going to then talk to I'm going to tell you what to do with the people of Israel, the children of Israel. And this is in a guarded space above the cherubim, above the lid of atonement. Okay? So he meets, there's a foundation of reconciliation and atonement. So do you notice that there was one of the things, well, we're going to get to it eventually. So one of the things that we find out is that the priest not only makes atonement for himself, but he makes atonement for the nation on the Day of Atonement. Okay? And by the way, that's part of why it's not really correct when we call it the Day of Atonement. It's actually plural, the Day of Atonements. Okay? Okay? Yom HaKippurim. It's plural. Okay? So, understand this. Again, this is hard for us to deal with as human beings, especially as badly as this has been done for so many thousand years here. You know, this person, whoever these anointed people are receiving from the above what he wants the below to have. Not just everybody, but specifically the children of Israel that the anointed is working with. And if you don't know what that means as far as being children of Israel, listen to the teaching, Discover Your Identity, okay? Discovering your identity. All right, so listen to that one. All right, now, so you have the ark with the covenant commandments and witnesses. What are the witnesses? They're the written accounts of what happened, all the things that Yahweh had done up to this point. They're all witness to who and what he is. Okay? And of course, you have the lid of atonement, the anointed, appointed, and Yahweh. So these are the things that you have going on there. Okay, so from there, guarded by the cherubim, Yahweh speaks to the anointed, appointed, all that he commands concerning the children of Israel. So he's communicating to the anointed, and then the anointed is supposed to communicate down the line vertically. Now, of course, he wasn't expecting that person to get the entire 2-3 million people together and speak to them all. It was going to be passed down through the heads of thousands, hundreds, etc. Okay? It's that vertical structure that everybody doesn't like. Okay? You know, it's just amazing how many people out there are attacking the idea of vertical structure and claim that that's not what's in here. That's all that's in here. Okay? That is literally all that's in here. Because from the beginning, there's the creator, there's authority, and there's nothing. And it ends with, guess what? The creator and authority, and a kingdom in authority. If you have a problem with authority, you have a problem with what's in this book. Okay? And with the creator himself and what he's doing. Okay? All right. You know what? I'm going to let you guys ask questions now. That's really going to cover it. The last thing I would just want to say, and I know Rebbetzin probably mentioned this also as part of it, I want you to notice, okay, the level of detail that is given by Yahweh as to how the Mishkan, the tabernacle, is to be made and how it's to look. Okay, what does that tell you about how Yahweh views the details and how you're building his dwelling place, like you? See, details matter. That's why we're going to get into some details between now and into the beginning of Leviticus. We're going to get, almost nauseatingly detailed. Okay, I'm serious. You're going to be like, that's the reason I always skip those chapters, you know? But the details matter. That's the message he's trying to tell you. You know what, they don't do this anymore because they would call it abuse, okay? But did you? I know I did, because I was typical wild kid. Anybody ever have to go up on a chalkboard and write 1,000 times or 100 times something that the teacher made you write? Did you remember it after that? Yeah, right? Because you had to write, I will not talk in class, or whatever it is, however many times, right? I don't know if they do that with kids anymore. It would be called abuse or something, but we had to do that stuff. Okay? All right? Some of you are going to have to write in the board now because you're talking. Okay, so Elder, go get the marker board. We're going to make them start writing. Okay, but the thing is, details matter, and he tells us through these things. When he gives you the recipe, so to speak, for an offering, he doesn't just say, look, I want some oil and a little bit of this and a little bit. No, he says, I want this much exactly of this and this many measures of that and this much. He tells you exactly what he wants. And so let's not play loosey-goosey with Torah observance. Okay? Some of you say, well, it doesn't say a lot of detail, but then get an anointed, appointed's guidance. By the way, two things, and they're going to sound sort of contradictory. One is, I just told you he gives a ton of detail. There's also some things he doesn't. Why wouldn't he if he gives so much detail on other things? Because he wants you to ask. He's forcing you to look up the chain of command, so to speak, and get your answers. He purposely only gives you some, but he gives it to you in such great detail to know that you're supposed to have great detail. So when you run into a situation, yes, and a lot of you do a great job. You call here, you ask a question, hey, this is a situation, what am I supposed to do? Or is it okay to do this, or is it okay to do that? And then we give you the halakhic answer, the Deuteronomy 17 answer. Some of you are like, why does he keep mentioning Deuteronomy 17? So just go ahead and read it for yourself, starting on verse 7, I think. Let me just tell you where to start. Give me 1 second. All right, 17... No, 8, okay? 17:8. Just read from 17:8 down to 13. It's only 5 verses, 6 verses, okay? That's it. Okay, 8 to 13. And you'll understand. It says when a matter arises that you don't know what to do, you got to go ask the leadership, and then when you do, you got to do exactly what they say. And some of you are like, oh, well, how can I trust that? Well, go back to Ephesians 4:11 and make sure you're finding one of those anointed, appointed people as described in verse 12 and 13. What the role that they plays in verse 11, right? Apostle, shepherd, prophet, teacher, evangelist. But the type of person you're looking for, it describes them in the next 2 verses. These are the anointed ones who are going to help bring you into the fullness and the completeness of the unity of understanding and belief in Yeshua. To that measure of that stature. And that's not everybody with a microphone. By the way, not everybody had a microphone, but basically people would stand on a little box in the middle of a square and start talking. It was still just as common then as it is now. Okay? Except you actually had to go outside to the middle of town and you'd see some people out there trying to gather people around as they were trying to talk on the street. The original street preachers, so to speak, okay? I mean, that stuff was going on in Yeshua's day. He was not the only guy walking around with a bunch of students following him. It was a very common thing, okay? They didn't have buildings to do schools in, so to speak. They would have students walk around. They'd find a place to sit. They'd have a lesson. They'd walk and look at different things, use what they see as a lesson, just like Yeshua did. It was normal. What wasn't normal is what he was saying and the reaction people had and the crowds that would start to come. Because that's when they said things like, this guy's a little different. He sounds like someone speaking with authority. Because he did have a different authority. That was very powerful. All right, so I hope that helped everyone. I hope that was good. Okay? All right, so if anybody has a comment or question, we can do this quickly. We got about 20 minutes. Michael's going to come up first.
All right, Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom.
I really appreciate everything you said tonight, especially because when we're talking about our contributions to this body, I'm caused to think about my own contributions to this body, which are at this point in time related to the creation of the janitorial lists, where we've added an accountability and process and procedure and all that stuff. But I'm trying to get myself to a point where I can contribute more on a day-to-day basis, and not necessarily just to the body itself, but by carrying forward the light of Yeshua into the world. And one of the problems that I'm having, or at least I feel like I'm having, I perceive that I'm having, is the fact that my personality, and I hesitate to use the color code because I have a white personality, which has nothing to do with race. Okay. But it's more peace-oriented. And so, those of us who have this color code personality aren't like you. You're very red. You walk into a room and you're in charge of that room before you even get there. But me, it takes me a little more work to be able to assert myself and assert that I have the chutzpah to lead that room. And I'm just wondering, like, what are some ways that, like I guess, how do I sharpen that? How do I hone that blade a little bit more?
All right, look, this is the same as when I've told people in the past to be an expert in your problem, right? Let's say you struggle with, it doesn't really matter, you struggle with your health, so maybe you have a weight problem, maybe you have an eating problem, maybe you have a smoking problem, maybe you have some other problem, maybe you struggle with, laziness, or maybe you struggle with anger, maybe you struggle with, as you do, with not being assertive. Become an expert in your problem. There's lots of books, videos, YouTube channels, and everything else that will help you to be a better leader, to have more, assertive in the right way. I mean, you can be assertive in a way that's very obnoxious and rude, but there's other ways to be assertive, and that comes forth, okay? And when you get good at something, I mean, like you excel to a high enough level, people will immediately see that you're different and you are at that level. See, when I walk in a room, I've been leading things for so long that I walk in and give off this sort of energy of this person's in charge, okay? It's not something I try to do. It's just that's what happens. But it's also like when you watch an elite athlete, you're like, you just see something different when they're on the field or whatever, on the court, wherever they're doing what they're doing. An elite musician, there's just something different about them when they're doing what they do, because it's completely congruent with who and what they are, right? See, right now, when you try to lead, it's not congruent with who you've been most of your life. So you now have to learn how to bring that part out and up to become a more normal part of you. Like, it's not normal for you to be in that position, but now you want it to become more comfortable. The more comfortable and the more you do it, the more you learn how to do it well, the more people will be able to look at you and see you to be a leader, okay? Okay, and there is something about that sense of leadership. Look, I mean, every group I've ever been in, somehow the faces all turn towards me at some point, looking to me to start doing something in leadership. And I mean, I'm like, I remember one time I was in my mid-20s. I went to it was a church singles event, and they had all these singles together, and we were organizing into teams to do some group activities. And I said to myself, I am not going to lead. I'm just, let somebody else do it. I'm just going to participate, okay? And guess who ended up leading? I sat there, nope. Somehow, and half the people didn't even know me in the group, right? It was a group of people, we were all meeting. But people can sense certain things. Plus, if people don't want to do and that's where you're comfortable doing, you naturally step into the space, okay? So it's not like leaders take over, okay? That's a bad leadership. Leaders do what has to get done and will step into where it needs to be, okay? And people will tend to naturally look towards the leader to make choices and decisions, all right? It just happens that way, but that's because you're exuding that kind of thing. Look, there are players in sports that we know when they're on the team that people have said, wow, when that person came on the team, the locker room just changed. Like they brought a presence and an energy and a leadership into that locker room. But not every player brings that. The great leader type players do. Not necessarily the greatest players. A lot of great players are terrible leaders. But I'm saying it's a matter of what you're bringing, right? Okay? And then there are those that can be great on their own, and others elevate everybody else around them. Okay, and that's what makes an even greater person, really, right? Okay? So same thing I would say if you had a real problem. This isn't a problem, it's something you want to develop. Become an expert. In other words, learn everything there is to know about being a better leader, being properly assertive, being able to, maintain attention of a room in the right way, those kind of things, right? There's tons of material out there for that. Probably some of it not so great, but you'll weed through it, okay? All right, Chris.
Hi.
Hi.
So I was looking at the word for the pattern or the plan, the blueprint, and at least in the Greek, it has the same word in 1 Chronicles 28, And when David is kind of commissioning Solomon, his son, to build the temple, he says some things that I thought were really similar to what was happening at the tabernacle and also what we're doing today with everything. So in verse 10, he says, "See now, for Yahweh has chosen you to build a house for the set-apart place. Be strong and do it." And so I was thinking, we have to be strong to do what Yahweh has chosen us to do. If we're called or chosen, if we're going to do whatever we're going to do, build the tabernacle of our lives, and also in the pledge campaign, depending on our ability. And so it says in verse 11 that he gave the plans. That's the word plans for all the different things. Verse 12, and the plans for all that he had by the Spirit. And I've always seen in Scripture the connection between the Spirit and authority coming down through that. It's Moshe or David who had the plans to give downward, and it's not like the people who just came up with the plans themselves to say, oh, this is the temple, this is what it's going to look like.
Right.
Of all the different things. And then down to verse 19.
Well, hold on. Let me just emphasize that point. When it talks about in Scripture that, a man without vision, right? People without vision. Well, it says they'll be let loose. I mean, without vision, they'll die. Though. I mean, it's a mess. But the thing is, as you just pointed out, Chris, the vision is not given to the individuals. The vision is given to the leadership person who then shares it with the individuals. Okay? And that's what Chris just said. But you can see it's consistent with other verses that talk about, the vision. Not division, the vision. Right? Having vision is given vertically down the structure. Okay? Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think when I was very young, I read the Bible a lot, and I had all these ideas. But when I came to you, it was very much like, oh, this makes a lot more sense. It comes together, like with this plan that David had. And in verse 19, Yahweh made me understand all this in writing by His hand upon me all the works of these plans or these patterns, like in Exodus, that we're supposed to follow. And David said to his son Shlomo in verse 20, "Be strong and courageous and do it. Do not fear nor be afraid, for Yahweh Elohim, my Elohim, is with you. He shall not leave you nor forsake you until you have completed all the work for the service of the house of Yahweh." So I thought that was really able to be connected, and thank you.
Good. And look, and take that one level further, which is the same thing with your tabernacle. He will not leave you or forsake you till you've completed the work of building the tabernacle. All right, so it's very good. Good job, Chris. Excellent. Okay, Janet.
I just wanted to say, when I was listening to Robertson's presentation, right, and she was going through all the details, and they went through all the work to make it exactly as how Scripture says. I just feel like Yahweh has put everything that we need in this ministry, because Robertson is just very detailed, like very much, right? Like Yahweh.
You have no idea. I'm serious. How many times she revised and revised and revised some of those drawings to just get them perfect? Okay, you don't even know the commitment to getting it right that she has. I gave her a thumbs up. All right.
No, I really appreciate that. I've learned a lot from Robertson, obviously from you too, Rabbi, but yes, going to be able to serve and be with the kids that I didn't think I was going to even like. And then you know how it is, and then you start trying it, and then it's really fun. It really is. I love to be up there, and I love to have a great example. And, through the time that we've been here with you, Rabbi, I really appreciate everything that you say. If I apply it, it works. Like this week I had a trial, and you were talking to Michael about, become expert of your problem. And what you said here resonated with me when you said, can we appreciate all that is offered here, that is available for you? And I had an issue, personal issue, and I didn't have any gratitude in my heart. And of course I wasn't, able to see or receive anything. And then I started crying out to Yahweh because I didn't see any. I was so blind in my own affliction, I guess I couldn't see anything. And then he provided 2 resources the next day. And I had to actually read this book that, because I like to do the audiobook because I don't have a lot of time. I was like, no, I'm going to go through this. I'm going to read it. And I got my answer, and the situation turned so quickly. But I did the work, And so the No Excuses book, I keep talking about that because that's one of the things that you recommended from the Level Up class.
Yeah.
Self-discipline is something that I've been working on. And I'm very impressed to see my progress. Not to say that I'm the best, but I have had an issue with, starting things on time. And I've been doing much better with that. So I just want to say thank you for everything that you gave us, because if we do it, it works.
Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
So I have a question about, when the first verse that you talk about, take up a contribution for me from everyone whose heart moves. So Yahweh knows, right, our situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you were talking about how some people, because of their income bracket or because of other circumstances, are not able to give what they want to give. So even if the amount that doesn't match what they want to give, as long as you give it with all your heart, that still counts. That's
Absolutely.
still
Absolutely.
okay.
It's not about the amount.
Okay, thank you.
Look, I'm going to say something that I think you need to hear. Not you, Janet, but everybody in general. But the thing is, let's say you're desiring to give, let's say your heart, you want to give, let's say $100 a week as a donation. That's maybe what you want to give. That's like a goal. You know what? Waiting until you can isn't going to get you there. Starting off giving $1 a week, if that's what you can, guess what? Then eventually you might be able to give $5 a week. Because he starts to open up the door to all of that. But some of you are like, well, I want to give this, and if I can't give this, I'm not giving anything. Well, no, give the $1. Give them $2, Look, if you decide you want to run a marathon, you don't just go out and run 26 miles, okay? But you can go out and run a couple of 100 yards, or maybe even a mile, and then you stretch that out and stretch that out, but you have to work your way up to it. And then you develop the skills and the other things and the stamina and the strength to do it. If you start giving, it opens up the whole floodgates of the things that make it more available for you to give more. Okay, as Janet was talking about getting, those kind of things, but it started off with her first at least realizing I have to have some gratitude and some attitude adjustment, right? Okay, back to like the, Zig Ziglar's of having an attitude of gratitude, okay? And so this is the kind of stuff that's really important that we start to get, okay? I think it's really important. Look, one other thing with this whole contribution thing, I know some of you think, oh, stop beating this to death. Well, that's the only people saying that are the ones who aren't giving, so the rest of you are okay with it. So, listen, how do you think you would have felt, or these people felt, walking around that incredible Mishkan knowing they hadn't given anything? And how do you think the people felt knowing that they had contributed? And they're like, oh, look, there's some of the purple I gave. There's some of the wood that I gave. There's some of the gold that I gave, right? So how are you going to feel showing up at the new worship center knowing that you gave nothing? Okay, I'm not trying to, leverage you. I'm just saying, I'm just telling you up front, that is going to happen. The building is going to happen. You're going to show up, and you're going to feel one way or the other. You're either going to feel good about having helped to make it, or you're going to feel something, okay? And so I'm just giving you that thought in advance while there's still opportunity to participate, because, it's funny because I know a lot of you whose hearts are moved, your frustration is you want to give more. You'd like to give more than you've given. That's a good heart, okay? And all of you have done a really good job, I appreciate, of not giving more than you can. Because I know some of you said, I wanted to give more, I wanted to pledge more, but you told us to be conservative, and I want you to be conservative. You can give more ultimately than do, but let's not overcommit, right? And so I think you guys have done a good job. Because some of you said, I really wanted to give more, but, and I'm okay with that. said, well, let's see what Abba does. And maybe he blesses you, and look, we got an email from somebody, I won't mention who they were, who had pledged a certain amount. Then all of a sudden, a bunch of money just showed up that they weren't expecting. He said, good, I'm going to pledge a bunch of that towards you because I wanted to give more. And then all of a sudden it showed up. But they pledged the first amount first. Okay? They had already made a commitment, asked me now to increase their pledge because some new money came in that they weren't expecting. That's the way it can work. All right, live stream, you got like 5 minutes, which is better than 0, which I've given you a couple of times in a row. So.
No, Ben. There it is. I think Ben was asleep. Rabbi, what you were saying there is how people are feeling that didn't contribute and still show up. I mean, I guess that would that go back to your honor and shame teaching? I mean, a lot of people just doesn't have any honor or shame. They don't really care either way. So.
No, look, you're absolutely right. There's going to be people that are just takers. And they don't mind being takers. And, that's the only reason they're here is to receive. Look, let me paint a quick picture. I know I wanted to get to you guys, but this is important. A quick picture, all right? This is the big picture of everything in one quick picture. The Creator is the ultimate understanding of what giving is, all right? So he created us, because if you're a giver, you need something to receive what you're giving, right? So he created us to be receptacles of what he wants to give. So we're here to receive. But then he has a bigger idea than that, which is that we would become like him, which means we would become givers. So if you only stay a receptacle, you're missing the bigger point. Yes, he made you to receive. Receive what he's giving. But what he's giving you, it should be also so you could be a flow-through, because he wants you to be participating as an extension of him, like his hand doing things. And so if all you're here to do is receive, you've really missed the majority of the point. Okay? And so that's the really simplistic big picture. The Creator wanted to give, so he created some creatures to give to, but then he wants us to become like him, so we have to learn how to do what he does, which is to give. Okay? All right, next.
Okay, from Michael, says, Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi. Are we to be like the acacia tree / wood, and through our obedience to the way, we will be overlaid with gold and be used by Abba as he sees fit when we get to the end of the age?
Okay, that'll work. That's a good metaphor. Okay? Just remember the overlaying with gold still fits into you're going to go through some fire to get there. Okay? All right. Good job, Michael.
Okay, from Matthew A. Heavens and earth are witnesses of the promise made to Abraham of the 4 interpretation levels. Could that be consistent with the cherubim and also Revelation 12:17, guarding and possessing?
Okay, I'm not really sure how all of that connects. I mean, all of it's good. I mean, yes, the heavens and earth are witnesses of the promises made to Abraham. And I don't know what the 4 levels of interpretation fit into. I guess you're needing one of the levels to kind of connect the rest of this. Revelation 12:17 talks about those guarding the commands and possessing the witness of Yeshua. So all of these things connect to some degree, right? Because you have the witness and the idea of the commands being part of what's happening with Moses and the ark and the things in chapter 25 here of Exodus. I'm not sure where the cherubim fit into all 3 of the things you're really putting together there, but yes, Matthew, they do kind of connect. I'm not really sure what connection you're trying to make there, but yes. Okay? Next.
Okay, the last one. Michael Hubbard, Rabbi, what's the difference between the tablets and the book of the law, inside and outside the ark?
All right, this is a really, really important, very quick piece, okay? Because the Adventists are obsessed with this whole outside, inside the ark nonsense. That's part of why they don't do anything but the 10. Although for some reason they do kashrut as being important to whatever degree. But, okay, so here's the thing, okay? The commandments, the 10 commandments, the tablets, because these were the special tablets that Yah made, went in the ark. Now, Moses is writing out the witness. I mean, the scriptures are a witness to all the things he did. And that book of the law that Moses wrote, the 5 books, are placed outside the ark, not because they're of lesser value, but because they were to be accessible by the priests and the kings to make copies. So the priest can make a copy, and then the kings can make a copy of the priest's copy. So in case anything happened, they had that copy. And so if you put it in the ark, do you see any reference anywhere where they're supposed to open the ark? Never. So they put it in there, then they'd never have access to it. So it wasn't because they were lesser commands or of lesser value or of lesser impact or they were added later or some other excuse to keep less Torah. All of this, at least the first 5 books, all that Moses wrote was put next to the ark, outside the ark, so that the priest could access it. And it says it in the scripture, so that they could have a copy of it, that they knew that they could then write their own copy that matched that one so they'd have something to work with. So it could not be in the ark. Okay? Now, the 10 commandments didn't have to be outside the ark because they were written inside the stuff that Moses wrote. So we have that, right? We didn't need the budding rod or the manna to be outside the ark because they were written about, again, in the witnesses that Moses wrote. But those very special items were placed in the ark. Okay? And so we have that separated. And so this is really important. The difference between them is the tablets were to be preserved with the other 2 items, and the rest of the books, the books of the law, and etc., this stuff is outside so we can access it. Okay? Otherwise, there would not be any access. All right, it's very simple. But that's not what you're going to hear on Saturday in an Adventist church. Okay? They're going to make this whole argument that, that's different law, which means that's the stuff that's the customs and stuff, that got done away with or whatever. And that's just nonsense. It was outside the ark simply for accessibility, for no other reason. Don't overthink it. Don't overcomplicate it. Okay? All right, was that the last one? All right, it's exactly 10 o'clock, so that worked out really well. A little over on my other clock here. That clock's slow. But anyway, excellent, everybody. I hope you got something out of that. All right? All right, if you'll all rise, Odini's going to come up. Mr. Odini, where are you? Okay. And he's going to close us in prayer. And then, for all of you, you are all welcome to join us on the Zone 3 Zoom meeting in like 2 minutes, as soon as we finish here. Okay. All right.
Our Father, our King, we approach you with humility, with humbleness of heart. We approach you with gratitude, and we're grateful for everything that you have given unto us. We're grateful for the words that have been taught. We're grateful for the demonstration of how you want us to follow the process exactly. As we're about to divide one from another, I pray that you may go with us. Help us to return tomorrow and enjoy the Shabbat that thou hast created and blessed us with. Be with us all as I ask these mercies in the name of Yeshua, our Messiah. Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right, so we're going to go ahead and look at this camera here. If you want to be on camera, quickly come on this side of the room. All right. Okay. We're going to look at this camera. We're going to appreciate all of our family and friends that are over in the internet world, who are watching us and streaming with us. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and wish everybody in the congregation at large, we're going to wish them a Shabbat Shalom and tell them that we love them. Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3.